and then we can really, really push that national stage again where Maryland used to be when I was younger, like in the early 2000s.
Slow down. Okay. Big 12.
You mean slow down?
Hey, man.
He telling the truth, man.
On today's Throwdown Thursday edition of the Odd Coaches Podcast, Dr. Adams and Coach Francis recap Week 5 games, analyze the current Power 5 football coaching openings from an administrative perspective, review Dr. Adams' strictly for entertainment purposes only picks, as well as previewing Week 6 of the college football season. Welcome to today's show. The Odd Coaches Podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today is my tag team partner. And as I clean up my office in my new house, I'm going to reset a tag team because I've got a belt with both of their names on them. Rest in peace. The hawk to my animal, the icon, the showstopper, the main event, and the reason why we are here. Coach Mike Francis. And Coach, how are you doing this morning, man? And welcome back.
Doing well. Glad to be back.
All right.
Good morning.
And with us also, doing bonus duty because
yes, sir,
is the team captain himself, Will Cotton. Will, thanks for joining us on our Throwdown Thursday edition as we talk college football. What's going on, man?
Going on nice and early. I sent the boys some hotcakes from Mickey D's, so everybody good. I got about an hour, so we good to go.
All right, man, and we might need you because we're hashtag no budget production. Well, fans, this entire week we are celebrating our 200th episode. We are, as we tape, this is episode 204, minus a lost episode or two. So Mike and I started this.
Some guy was quarterbacking in Texas.
Mike and I started this off as a humble thing, something we did, and it was in the days before they were called podcasts. And AJ heard one of our rants, according to legend, and said, "Dad, you and that guy ought to start a podcast." And Mike mentioned it in random to me. And then in true Dr. Adams form, and like a week later, I said, "All right, we got this, and please take a listen to this." And Mike's like, "What are you talking about?" Oh, we for real? And now we've looped in my former players and Mike's former players. Shout out to Kevin Hammock and everybody involved in that. Mike, any thoughts as we celebrate all week long? People are going to hear, similar accolades of us, but we don't do this without you, buddy.
No. It was nothing special. Everything you already said is just the way it happened. And I remember being in the McDonald's parking lot and you called me. It was like, "When we going to get this started?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "All right, okay."
And Cotton, man, you got looped in after episode 100 as we continue to grow and expand. And I wanted to add, folks, any thoughts you have as we celebrate episode 200 over the course of a week. It's a week-long celebration.
I'm gonna keep pushing for an hour-long episode.
Oh.
I be driving, and 30 minutes is not enough for me. I need 60 minutes. That's a lot of Keith Adams, but I need it.
So fans who don't know, Mike and I started doing episodes and they were about 20 something minutes because we're learning this. And Mike, it was Will who actually said, you need to segmentize this, Coach, and you need to make it 30, 45 minutes and blah, blah. And then he said, yeah, let's get to an hour. And we're like, all right, all these metrics that Kelly, our super producer, and I talk about all week, but that's where it came from, man. So I'm kind of glad Will said that because that's the truth, man. So segment one, we're going to go around the territories. A lot of stuff to talk about in college athletics. So I'm going to start off with the SEC. I got 3 bullet points, fellas, and we'll give you a chance to respond to it. There are no real dominant teams in the ACC. Should we keep an eye out on Duke? Shout out Jordan Moore, son of a former teammate, Percy Moore. And UNC keeps improving. So, Mike, welcome back. And anything about the ACC?
Absolutely nothing. I don't know what you want me to say. I mean, Pitt, look, I'm going Pitt. That's about it. No, not even
Pitt.
Pitt.
Lose? Did Pitt lose?
I was on Pitt last year. I liked their quarterback. You know how that was.
Yeah, he in the league now.
Yeah. The only thing I can say right now is Syracuse is what, 4-0 now? 3-1, 4-1? To keep an eye on you.
All right, Will, anything with the ACC while Mike hashtag no budget production?
I mean, North Carolina State, they look good, man. I mean, I didn't see. Did they finish? They beat Clemson yesterday?
No, they lost. They lost.
Yeah.
They didn't get the job done, as we say in wrestling.
Clemson's still Clemson, but they have a great quarterback, man. I like the kid. He's a good college quarterback. But really, I mean, Syracuse. If you're local to the ACC, get a little excited. It's better than just Clemson. So that's all I have to say.
All right. And the Americans, since he's winning again, Houston's not. And again, I apologize to the national betting public for overvaluing them. And believe it or not, Memphis and Tulane are both 4-1. Will, do you follow the American Athletic Conference? Anything going on there? Because we're just doing it out of politeness now.
No, it's just everyone likes to believe there's some sort of like parity now, and that everyone's good and everyone 4-1 and they're good. But I think when we get to the end of the day, it'll be the big four. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and then there'll be a third one. Not really sure who that's going to be, but it's going to be
Ohio State.
Yep.
All right, Mike. No Project Cincinnati this year.
Thank God.
The Houston thing. Oops.
Yeah.
Anything about it, or we're just letting fans know that the American exists?
The American exists, everyone. Just so y'all know, there is a conference they play football. It's called the American Conference. These conferences, though, honestly, because of the super seniors, is with everyone in COVID, some guys got 2 extra years. They had to go somewhere. So the Power Five, no, seriously, the Power Fives and transfer portals that guys start going to conference like that. And you see talent emerging all over that conference. So we joke about it, but yes, there's some talent there.
But Coach, remember, you also have NIL. So a lot of guys are like, hey, if I ain't working to the NFL and I don't necessarily have a job secure, why not play football for NIL?
Yeah, especially if it's close to my house and my family can come and see me play, things like that. If it fits, I can see it.
All right. So the Big Ten, 2 bullet points that caught my eye. Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State are still undefeated. And man, keep an eye on Maryland. Maryland will win. They have a chance to make a little bit of a run. Any thoughts, Mike? I'm gonna let you tag in on that first because there was a Maryland game on television.
Yes, sir. Finally, it took almost a whole month, but we finally got one back. It was good to see yesterday. I thought Maryland did a good job. Their secondary is the most improved part of their team from week 1 to now, which is going to help them in their conference. And linebacker play is getting better as well. So very happy. And that kid, 31, can run, a little smash mouth football, even though they're spread out. So they look pretty good, and I'm glad for Locks because I think they can beat at least 4 more of those teams. And with 4 wins now, that puts him at 8 wins.
A good bowl.
Yeah,
good
better
bowl.
bowl. Yeah, you know what I mean?
So
And Cotton Man was at the game. What was the atmosphere like at
Yeah,
CQ
yeah.
Stadium? What was it, CQU or second?
CQ,
Okay,
It
sorry
State
was-
about that,
Employees
Mike.
Credit Union. Stop it.
It was
State
great, man. They had great energy. I wish they had more people. You
Ugh.
know, there was a good amount of people from MSU on their
But that
side,
weather-
but they were drowned out, huh?
That weather.
Yeah,
I
it
had
was the
tickets,
weather.
man. I'm like, yeah.
It was difficult, but the game was, it was a great game. They had one issue. I mean, the good thing I like about Maryland, they overcame a lot of penalties, and not the penalties, but yeah, I guess penalty. There was one that they got interception that they ran down for the touchdown, and they said it was like targeting.
Defenseless hitter.
Yeah, defenseless. And we watched it, and the kid jumped in the air, leaping
ball.
back.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do? But they didn't fold. They still stay solid. They didn't, give up a point. Even when Michigan State was like coming back, throwing blow to blow. There was one little part that I gotta say, when they made it to the goal line and they couldn't punch it in, even in like three chances, they did three. And the running back. Look, some people got bunnies, and some people need on the ground because brother tried to jump over, and he was like 2 yards away every time trying to jump over to the line. But it was exciting. It was good to see Maryland back. It was good seeing like a lot of fun. I really like the coach is really getting the kids in there and the program's turning around. Let's turn it into some championships, and then we can really push that national stage again where Maryland used to be when I was younger, like in the early 2000s.
Slow down. Okay. Big
What do you
12.
mean slow down?
Hey, man.
He telling the truth, man.
There's going to come a point where that thing going to tap on the shoulder.
What
But
is it ain't Illinois.
No. They got a shot to
It ain't
get
Purdue.
eight
It ain't
good wins.
Northwestern.
They got a shot. Get a
They
good
got
bowl.
Ohio State October 29. That's going to be a big win for them. I mean, they had they played Michigan pretty tough.
Yes, they did.
I mean, say
Yes,
what
they
you
did.
want in Michigan. So they're
Yes,
gonna.
they did.
We'll see what happens. We'll see. A couple weeks, people get hurt. Got to step up, especially on Ohio State side. Who can happens? There's really and Maryland. They're playing with. They ain't got nothing to lose.
House money, Al. House money.
I mean, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. People come in saying, "Oh," and Maryland is notoriously beating good teams at home.
Well, again, we will continue to root for the Terps. Moving on to the Big 12. All college football playoff hopes for the Big 12 fall on TCU and Oklahoma State. Good luck with that. Oklahoma let me down. We'll talk about that in segment 3. I'm still mad about that. Go Kansas, Mike. Go Kansas. They're still getting it in. And K-State is 4-1. They're in the top 25. So shout out to friend of the show, Dr. Lisa Rubin, who does outstanding work with the student athletes at Kansas State. Mike, what are you thinking about the Big 12, sir?
I'm not.
Applesauce, alfalfa?
I'm not.
Applesauce.
There's this thing called the SEC. Let's keep it moving.
Cotton Man, anything with the Big 12?
They're fun in the division.
He said they're fun.
They make the game interesting.
A lot of points.
Kansas,
yes,
baby.
they challenge the spread. I will say that too.
Yes. Every week.
Strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Oh yeah, of course. But I don't think there's a dominant team. I mean, there's some good teams. Kansas, K-State, Oklahoma State, but it runs through SEC now, and I don't really see. I mean, Ohio State is really the other team outside of the SEC that's the tough one. So, but Big 12. I mean, if you like points and you got time,
Pure entertainment, baby.
Yes,
All right, HBCUs. I don't believe Jackson State played this week, but please keep an eye on FAMU, who are finally getting it back together, and Dell State. Both of them are playing pretty well. And
they done.
I said they're back to playing well. And
they already lost.
But we're talking about the SWAC. They could get into the SWAC championship.
Yeah, but Dion ain't thinking about the SWAC. Dion thinking about bigger bowls. That's what you got to do to get there.
And remember, Dion didn't win last year, so he got to win. He got to win the Heritage Bowl, man.
But he still Heritage. That's what he's trying to get that out of the thing. Like he said, he's not trying to say. get upset about, but people hate that only ones is Eddie George,
Hugh
and
Jackson. I think
and
Hugh
Hugh
Jackson's at
Jackson.
like Grambling or something.
Yeah, those three guys can really speak out about the way that HBCUs are treated with athletics and how the presidents try to submerge athletics, and then they keep talking about all the money they getting, but don't see the money.
Don't see.
You know what I mean? So again, he's trying to think larger than the Heritage Classic, which is good, and that's why the program's elevated.
All right, and our weekly shout out to Howard University and Akil Russell. Love Akil. All right, Group of 5. James Madison and Coastal Carolina are 4-0, Mike. I'm not going there yet, but James Madison and Coastal are 4-0. Air Force and UNLV are 4-1. You know, the best Group of 5 team makes it to the Sugar Bowl now. So I don't think they can keep this up. But hey, man, we can always dream. I've always been fond of James Madison. Will knows that a friend of ours should have picked James Madison, but that's another story. Any thoughts, Will, on the Group of 5?
I mean, everything sounds good in the early fourth, the early season. Once it starts getting cold and them hits start coming, it changes a lot of things. And, we'll see when them kids hit midterm, because then these kids still got to play. They still got to take midterms. So who's going to be ineligible? Who's not going to be ineligible? Who's going to be excel? So it's a good preview. The teams that you wanted to play well. Some that aren't good, unfortunately. I mean, but yeah, I wouldn't break a date for that.
Mike, you love the Group of 5. Anybody catch your eye in the Group of 5, sir?
Will said it best.
All right, so there are 2 independents that played this week. Notre Dame is off. Liberty and BYU are both 4-1, and I'm not talking about either one of them, so I will use executive producer. We covered them, fans. You heard about them. Now it's time for the SEC. So, Mike, Georgia's on punishment. Just like Alabama was on punishment, Georgia's on punishment for 2 weeks. Alabama handled his business, but their Heisman quarterback is injured. Ole Miss keeps winning quietly, but they beat Kentucky. And I am sure you were sitting there like, man, I wish both of you could win. Texas A&M are 3-2, and screw them. I told you about them. So, Mike, at SEC, you go first, sir. Anything catch your eye, sir?
Never even thought Texas A&M was going to be a major threat. Just that never came to me.
Under 8.5. Under 8.5.
Love the powder blue uniforms Ole Miss is wearing. Lane Kiffin changing everything around. Hated to see Kentucky. I've been a fan
that
of
quarterback's
Kentucky.
really, really good at Kentucky, man.
Last
He's
2
really
years.
Yeah.
And as far as Alabama is concerned, I don't know if you saw what's the name run the ball yesterday. But I don't think Alabama's going to be too hurt. They only went out and won by 20-something in the second half without their starting quarterback. So,
yes, I think they addressed what you had mentioned last year about the running game.
Yeah, they did. And my brother sent me a text this morning and said Alabama's top 4 quarterbacks are better than most schools' top 2.
Right.
So it is what it is.
All right. Will, any thoughts on the SEC?
Man, Alabama is just prepping and letting these other teams beat each other up. You know what I'm saying? They're fighting and scrapping. Florida's tough. They're not good. Don't get me wrong. Florida's not good, but they're tough. They'll beat you up around for four quarters, and all these other teams are beating each other up, and Alabama's playing cupcakes. When it's time to play division time, it's all about
They beat Arkansas yesterday, and that's not a cupcake.
Arkansas not a cupcake,
Ain't a
bro.
cupcake.
True.
With their backup quarterback.
But you also need to validate your season in some way. You can't keep, but they'll be ready. I think Nick Saban, he understands the league, and he understands the division, the conference, and he knows when to peak at the right time. And I think a lot of the teams are good, but I think they have to learn how to peak at the right time. Like Kentucky may be peaking right now. And when they hit in October, mid-October, or like early November, then they may be hitting their downtrend. So I think that's interesting. I want to keep looking on that. as the season rolls on. But I think that's probably the big advantage probably Nick Saban will have, is that he knows how to have his guys ready to go when it's time to go for, like, conference championships and things like that. So I think Alabama is smarter, but they've done it enough and they have a good system. So that'll be one to beat. But I'll be interesting to see what happens.
Mike, I do want to get your extended thoughts on something the commentators talked about all yesterday before the Arkansas-Alabama game. And that was the fact that Alabama doesn't have the type of playmakers that they've had in previous years, and they were pretty much trashing their wide receivers. Can you speak to your thoughts on Alabama's playmakers? I mean, they did lose first and second round draft picks, but that was something that was mentioned nationally over the last 2 weeks. And with Alabama playing a lot of good teams coming up, any thoughts on their playmakers, their wide receivers?
Alabama has playmakers. We just don't know their name yet. Like, we didn't know Tua's name until he got into the national championship game and came in as a backup as a freshman. Like, as Alabama, to say they don't have playmakers is just saying you haven't done your homework or you just don't know who they are yet. But it is Alabama. Alabama has playmakers. Shit, the quarterback came off yesterday and almost ran 90 yards. And he looked like he was outrunning. He was outrunning angles like, dude, he the fastest dude on the field. And he ain't even getting no snaps.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he threw a pass all year. So don't believe that Alabama don't have playmakers.
Okay.
You just don't know their names yet.
Okay. Finally, Pac-12. I spoke too soon about Washington. Oh, what a dud that was. USC and UCLA are undefeated.
They still playing football.
And Utah and Oregon, to me, have bad losses. Utah lost to a team that had no business losing to, and Oregon got ran by Georgia, and a middling SEC team battled them all the way to the end.
Right.
So, man, what are we doing? Will, any thoughts about West Coast after dark?
They just have to have a good showing. USC, UCLA, they're trying to go to the SEC. Oh no, the Big Ten. So they just have to keep good showing. I don't necessarily think they're good. I think they're just, they're winning. They're winning. That's on their schedule. So, but I don't think there's any kind of threat. I don't think they're going to be, in the top 4. They shouldn't be talking about the college playoff. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's good, but they're not. I don't think. Just again, it's early, so we'll see what happens when they have to go east and see what happens. But
all right, Mike, take us out of the segment with your thoughts on the Pac-12.
Anytime you want me to be quiet, talk Pac-12 football, any of that. So I'll just shut right up.
And with that, fans, we're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA Save Project's academic monitoring service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress, as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2. Seems like this might be a regular segment. There's a lot of administrative issues going on, and people have to pay attention to it. So here's your college football playoff update. After lengthy in-person meetings last week, the College Football Playoffs Management Committee said they still need more time to determine if they can expand to 12 by 2024 as opposed to 2026. The commissioner, Bill Hancock, if I'm not mistaken, said that they continue to discuss the possibility of moving the entire season, Mike, to week 0. That's their plan on paper, to move everything back a week, which means conference championships will be around Thanksgiving. But a funny thing happened with that plan. That's going to run into the NFL because the NFL has Saturday games
Thursday,
right after
Saturday.
the end of the
Yep.
traditional season, plus the Thursday games, and the Amazon contract is 11 years. So good luck with that. Mike, you first. Any thoughts about CFP using trying to move up, but in moving up, they might run into the NFL? Oops. Any thoughts?
Well, it's just a weekend, so I don't see why they wouldn't try to compete against them for that one weekend. Sounds like a something that they could do. I mean, that Thanksgiving weekend is not a.
Well,
I mean, it ain't too
let
many
me
games.
tag in with an additional information. So, if the season ends now with conference championships at Thanksgiving, your playoffs run into the NFL week after week after week. So, the last time they did that, their ratings took quite a hit against the NFL. NFL throws out anything,
Yeah.
and the ratings are high. So that's one of the hiccups that the commissioners are having in terms of making that switch sooner, because they don't want to fight the NFL. So go ahead and continue now that you know that the playoffs and the subsequent games will get in the way of the NFL.
I don't. I mean, nobody's going to beat the NFL if that's what you're doing. You're not going to get ratings against the NFL. It's the biggest thing out here right now. I could see them doing that for the simple fact that it is friendly. It's calendar friendly. They'll say that. It's calendar friendly. But depending on what it is, like, you can't get into the NFL playoffs. That's going to kill you. So they got to figure. I guess they figure out a different way to get it done. Maybe that'll put all conference championships on Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving weekend. They're trying, if they follow the move everything to week 0 and make week 0 week 1, that means conference championships and so forth will be around the Thanksgiving week. And Will, as somebody who does things strictly for entertainment purposes only, what do you think about that move everything up, and then they may unintendedly run into the big bad booty daddy known as the National Football League?
Well, I think, if you're going to implement something like that, then do it the right way. Don't cheapen the viewers, because we're really going to the one that have now. I don't want to have to choose between a great college football and an NFL playoff game, because like Mike said, it's going to NFL regardless. I'm not watching whatever. It's professional football.
I'm not watching the Blue Bonnet Bowl.
Yeah. So I think NCAA, man, look, people are gonna, if you're a fan, you're gonna watch it regardless. So get it right and don't do it fast. On the flip side, they should have been doing that 5 years ago. They should have saw that they had, like, if people really liked the college football playoff, it really gravitated to people. And as soon as they saw the numbers, they should have started planning, putting in 2 more teams. And now they waited, and now they're like, well, now we got to do this, and now we got to do that. So I think, if you're going to implement something like that, take your time and do it. I don't mind if you're going to take another year, if you want to add more teams. Do it right. Don't make it cheap in it. Don't, water it down, and don't make me choose between NFL or what I'm going to watch. You know what I'm saying? Because like a family man with young kids, I have to be very particular in terms of what games I'm going to watch. You know what I'm saying? Who I'm going to hang out with, what I'm going to do, and what days it happens. So
where you going, everything, it all matters.
Yeah, it affects everything. Families, because certain families are like, well, we always going to watch this college team, and because we're big college teams, and we're also NFL teams, so you might change people's family dynamics in terms of how they're going to celebrate Thanksgiving. So it's bigger than just let's try to move it up. Be able to kind of think about it, implement it, push it out. People aren't going to be pissed if you move out 2 years, because you already know that you take long for everything NCAA anyway. So do it the right way.
I'm telling you now, you can't schedule Alabama the same day as you schedule the Dallas Cowboys at my sister's house. You gonna have a fight on your hands.
Yeah.
Speaking of a fight on your hands, There are three current Power Five openings right now: Nebraska, Georgia Tech, and Arizona State. And I wanted to have a segment that takes an administrative point of view in terms of which jobs are good jobs from an administrative point of view. So, folks, Nebraska, the athletic director, Trev Alberts, had a press conference last week. And I want to see if you can find some breadcrumbs in terms of whether or not you think this job is good. And then I'll let the fellas give their thoughts. But here's what Trev Alberts said. Every single problem we face at Nebraska is solved with one word that has three letters: win. Speaking in front of a packed house, Alberts dished on the coaching search, and he said, right now, excuse me, where we are, we need a leader who understands the infinite details of everything about football, and that's why it's really complicated. People just think it's X's and O's and schemes, but that's not what builds a great program. It's the foundational stuff, and it's the culture shift. Part of what I believe in and part of what I've learned in my leadership journey is when a decision is made and you know the right answer, you make the decision. I just didn't think it was fair to our student athletes, and I didn't think it was fair to our coaches to spend the next month sort of flapping in the wind, waiting if the decision has already been made. With that information, gentlemen, is Nebraska a good coaching job when that's what your AD says? Mike, you first, sir.
Nebraska ain't won how long? He talking about that's what we do is win. Like, come on, man. How's that in your criteria? You ain't won.
Right.
Maybe that's why you having problems that you're having. Like you got the whole. You can't be trying to reach one goal and objective and not doing things properly. This is crazy because I don't think any one of those jobs. If you look at all three jobs, I think all three of them have issues, and it's probably be part due to administration or their like their beliefs that the expectations not being as good as they are for that school. You're not getting a kid to come to Lincoln, Nebraska today. Not in 2022. Kids are not going to Lincoln, Nebraska. Let's be honest. Ain't no superstar kids going to Lincoln, Nebraska. What NIL do you got in Nebraska? Omaha Insurance? Like, what can you do?
Sakes.
So, Will, as somebody who does some hiring and works in that, if that's the pitch you heard from the leader, would that be an organization that you would want to gravitate to based on what you heard from the press conference?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that your leader has to have reality. I mean, I'm not just going to follow him across a cliff because he's telling me there's gold at the bottom of it, so that's just what it is. I think being more real and saying, hey, look, we're struggling for X and Y, this reasons, partially because there's nothing in Nebraska. There is, pretty conservatives, and there's a lot of racial tension in Nebraska, especially for brothers. I mean, it's hard for us to go into, you live in Philly or you live in PG County and you live in, and then try and say, yeah, come live in Nebraska, come live, it's and if you're good enough to play in Nebraska, you're going to get other teams who come and say, man, go play over here, go play on that. So, I mean, don't sell me chocolate and it's poop. That's what Nebraska's doing, man. Like they have to be real with themselves and understand, like, man, the culture. You're holding on to the old traditions that they had in the 60s, 70s, and they're not changing things. And I think being real is what you can do for your organization, and that's the best you can do. So I don't believe what he's saying. He doesn't really have an idea or a plan moving forward.
These people held on too long gatekeeping, and this is what you get into when you hold on and don't allow things to change, and you don't want your community to change. You don't, like I told AJ turned down Notre Dame because of the same reason. Like we were walking out of the game, walking out of the stadium, and he said, Dad, I know this is your favorite, but I'm never going here. It's too flat, and it's not enough around here, Dad. I'm like, all right, son, that's fine. Your choice.
All right, so we're going to look at Arizona State now. So Arizona State University President Michael Crow joined KTAR News 92.3's Mike Broomhead show last week And he admitted, as he's been peppered with questions about whether ASU would consider a candidate like Deion Sanders. Here's the quote. I get a lot of messages about Deion, and Deion seems to be just his early age of learning of how to be a coach. We're going to find the most fantastic football coach we can. I can tell you one thing, that ASU football is very important to me. We've tried some experiments. They've worked a little bit. They haven't worked in other ways. We're going to now move forward. We're going to expand our investments. We're going to take full advantage of all the opportunities that the state of flux is providing and the way college football is being run. And we're going to regroup and move forward to victory. Mike, with the university president.
This is why they don't win in any damn sport right there. He just told you. He just told you. And in other words, this is what he said. First of all, Deion's just learning how to be a coach, which means I'm never going to hire another black man. That's what that means. Okay? Let's be honest. Let's be honest. He's just learning to be a coach. The man ain't learning to be a coach. The man took nothing and turned it into something that's reputable. He don't have the resources that Arizona State can give him. But he's too loud. And when I say loud, he ain't going to take your bullshit. He's going to speak up. You're going to say things that ain't appropriate. It's not appropriate. I hate to make the mention again with my son, Vince McMahon. Same thing. What did he say? I'm not hard to work with. I'm hard to fool. You can't just tell me anything. And Deion is hard to fool. They're looking for guys who they can just tell what to do. They're looking for puppets in Arizona State. But that's why they don't win. And it's not just football.
Well, any thoughts on, again, that was a quote from the president of the university. That's the person who hires folks. And he gave us the information. How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, you're not good enough to be pushing away talent and saying you're not going to look at anybody. I mean, you ain't like your Texas or your Arizona State. Like you're saying, an NFL Hall of Famer is willing to even look at you and you're going to be like, well, da-da-da-da-da-da. It's unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? Arizona State, they have a great fan base. I mean, those guys travel very well. It's a great state for golf, in terms of temperate, it's a nice place to live, a nice place to work. Mm-hmm. You have all the major professional teams and major, so you can expose to NFL guys and, basketball, everything. It's just unfortunate that he's so short-sighted with that kind of comment.
He is. He don't want Deion to make it too black. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Not that Deion would go anyway, by the way, folks.
No, not that he's been offered the job or nothing, but for you to come out and say that like you act like you Alabama or some shit or LSU, like you can't be picky on who you get. When's the last time Arizona State was in the playoffs or won what I mean? Won a major bowl.
It's like on Twitters who try to say, "Oh, Halle Berry's not that bad," but she's not even looking at you. Like, why are you even the comment? You're not even in the universe. You know what I'm saying? It's just like
Halle Berry's gardener or some. That's where you at.
Yeah.
All right, the last one, folks, is Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech is about to make a significant decision in a short amount of time. And there was a recent news conference with school president Angel Cabrera and interim football coach Brent Key, interim athletic director Frank Neville, who said that the hire of a full-time athletic director will precede the hiring of a full-time football replacement. Cabrera, the president, vowed his support, saying that he personally was committed to, and I quote, building and maintaining a world-class athletic program. Regarding football, Tech is in need of financial support, particularly as it goes through the costly buyout for the previous football coach and then hiring a new football coach and football staff. Georgia Tech finished last fiscal year $12.1 million in debt. Okay. Neville does not have experience in college athletics administration, but has been on the Georgia Tech Athletic Association board, first as a faculty member, now as an interim AD, which has allowed him to get to know some people. He was also at George Mason, where he served with Cabrera as chief of staff. And he has some experience with the day-to-day, but George Mason does not have big-time football. Mike, what do you think? And no, I did not ask for hollering anything, so no yelling at us from George Mason. I left him out of this.
You got to have an AD before you get a coach, right?
That is what they said they're going to do. They're going to go in that order.
So how did the AD leave?
The AD left when the football coach left because the AD hired the football coach.
Okay.
And both of y'all got to go.
Oh, that's not good.
According to Georgia Tech.
I'm not good. Another one whose campus is not exactly appealing to most students. Like it ain't like it used to be. I go back to what Will said earlier about, 70s, 80s, 90s. You got Georgia Tech smack dab in the big city. You know what I mean?
Hot Atlanta, baby.
Yeah, it's
Hot Atlanta.
smack dab in the big city, which is cool. But on campus, it don't look like a big city. You actually don't even look like you're in a city when you're actually on the campus. To be honest, I mean, if you've been there, I don't know if you guys have been there or not. But
we've had a Final Four too, Mike, in Atlanta.
Yeah. So it's just not appealing. Another school's not appealing. If you're starting to see the ones that fall off, is because these kids when they really say I'm going to this school because of what's outside the school or the environment, let's put it that way, they really mean it, especially kids nowadays. They really, really do mean it. It all means something.
Well, any thoughts about Georgia Tech and what was said? And that's why I wanted from this segment I want you to hear what administrators are saying, because the fans get caught up in the Saturday afternoon, but these are the people making the decision.
I think they're trying to tell people they have a plan, but I don't think they really know how that's going to work. I think I know what they want to do, but they're kind of hoping that it kind of flushes itself out. But like Mike said, it's a shame because, you have colleges that are right next door, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta, who basically, they breathe Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's when Atlanta feels and they talk about Morehouse and they talk about Clark and Spelman. They don't really talk about Georgia Tech, and they really right there. Nobody really talk about it. Like, I don't hear nobody making a song talk about I went to Freaknik and he went to Georgia Tech. Like that, it don't work like that. They don't even know if that was happening. Mm-mm. So I think the first thing they have to do is they really have to get in touch with the community. You know what I'm saying? That's how you really starting to build, because I mean, if I'm driving through Atlanta and I see, Morehouse and Clark, and I'm like, man, all right, yeah, okay. I don't, and Georgia Tech is like one little baby thing. And I'm like, Georgia, all right, whatever, okay. That's a shame. It shouldn't be like that. A big school like that, living in Atlanta, in the suburb right there, you have really any sort of kind of footprint or hand in that community. And that hurts. I mean, because people aren't going to support you. You know what I'm saying? And people are just going to be like, well, I mean, look at the Braves. Nobody really supported them in terms of like black. We don't really go to baseball games. Like, I like baseball, but
no, they killed us.
Yeah, and they kicked them. They were like, all right, we leaving. We out of the city. We going to play somewhere where people want to go watch us play. And Georgia Tech probably, wish they could, but they can't. So, all these schools need to be real with themselves and understand who they are. It's not like, Mike said, it's not the 60s, not the 70s. Mm-mm. It's 2022. And you be real about who you are, because somebody's going to make sure that you know who you are if you try not to be. So
you literally can walk blocks and see the difference. Like you got Georgia Tech campus there, and then you got the other schools also surrounded. Like you really, it's like two different worlds.
Yeah, so and you have a great hotbed. You're right there in Atlanta. There's a great way to recruit kids. Bringing them down to Atlanta. I mean, I know, hey, take them down to the strip club. I mean, I know you're not supposed to, but there are things that
wait a minute. Hold up.
All right, so Mike,
look, we talking, but I won't condone it. But whatever, there are things that you can bring kids down to the school and bring them and utilize that. But you not want to be part of the town. You don't want to be part of the city. So it's hard for you to sell that, to Georgia Tech, to like a black kid from DC or like a black kid from New York or Ohio. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, come here. But I'm coming from the same place I came from. You ain't telling me I came from Atlanta. We don't really know about that too much.
All right. So Mike, there's 3 jobs out there. We talked about Nebraska. We talked about Arizona State. We talked about Georgia Tech. Out of those 3, Which is the better job of the three?
Football wise?
Football wise, because you're our football guy, and then I'll close the segment saying where I would go. But where would you go, Mike? Because you are a coach, you've been in these situations, and these are the three schools in front of you, and you heard from administration, because that's how we always pick jobs. We found out what was going on with administration, and for me, sometimes that's why we leave jobs. That's another story for another day.
I would say out of the three, only because its location being on the East Coast and in the South and the state would be Georgia, because the hotbed of football, high school football is better to me in Georgia than it is the other two. Regardless of everything going on, I need to be in the middle where the athletes are. So I would say Georgia Tech.
And now, I also would say Georgia
how would I
Tech.
get them there? That's the next
There's your next question, because Georgia Tech wants to do a lot of things you wanted to talk about, but it's hard to get into Georgia Tech. That's real. It's Georgia Technical Institute.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You've got to come in with academic juice, or they're not going to let you in anyway, because, as I like to say, it's not about you getting into college, it's about you getting out of college. And you can't do that. That's why Paul Johnson ran that triple option stuff, because he could get those kids in.
Well,
and
he's
now
getting Naval Academy kids.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? That's the caliber, and Wake Forest caliber kids. That's what it was.
Yeah, but look at Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame was on the same thing. They were like, "We do only academics, and you got to get in." And all of a sudden, they got rid out the window, and now they competing.
Exactly. I was going to say they say
you
that.
know.
That's like Georgetown. Nobody in the admissions office ever sees Georgetown's transcripts when John Thompson was there. They send them straight to John. So let's keep it at that.
And let's get out of this segment. And we'll be right back on the Yacht Coaches Podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Yacht Coaches Podcast as we talk about home ownership. Segment 3, strictly for entertainment purposes only. So fans, we reset it every week. We tape before the AP Top 25 comes out, the Coaches Top 25 comes out. So we try to be trendsetters. So OCP Top 5. Number 1 is Alabama. They are off punishment. That's all I'll say about that. Number 2 is Ohio State, because Georgia's on punishment. You can't play that way against Missouri and not have, Dr. Adams be mad at you. Georgia is number 3. They'll be off punishment for a week. But, Clemson's 4 and USC's 5. On the outside looking in, we got Michigan, we got Oklahoma State, and we got UCLA. And as always, fans, the focus of the OCP Top 5, in honor of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, is who's going to make the playoffs? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about winning championships. So, Mike, you first. What's your top 5 looking like? Do you like what I came up with? Or,
Georgia got to go up, man. Georgia
they're on punishment. You saw them play last night.
Hey, they
need to go to their room and think about what they. You need to think about what you did.
Yes. And don't come out your room until you do. But the thing is, man, when you play bad and win, that's the sign of that's the struggle before you really bust it out. Like when you play bad and win. So Alabama and Georgia 1 and 2, and depending on how it fluctuates from week to week. And seriously, everybody else is just you can have 2, 3 through 10. I don't care.
Will, what do you think, man?
Well, I mean, I still think Georgia's number one in my book. I think Alabama's right below them.
Y'all
Ohio
these
State.
newfangled parents that let your kids do anything.
That's what my wife tries to push out. I ain't gonna let it go on like that.
Yeah, we pick our favorite 2 children, and the rest of y'all fend for yourself.
Yeah, right. I like Michigan at 4. And I like Clemson at 5 going in the back end. I'm not really a believer of USC. I think it's early.
Nope.
But I don't know.
Did you say USC?
He's not a believer.
We talking about football. You know we talking about football, right?
Right. They're not a believer. They're not a believer. But the top 5 is who the top 5. You know, I think it's going to stick who is going to be on. I don't know who's going to beat them. I mean, teams aren't good, but I don't think there's 2 better teams than like Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. I mean, there may be like people fighting for 4. That's what I'm saying. There's really
people fighting for 3.
Fighting for 3. Gosh.
I don't believe in Ohio State. I still don't believe in them. And
what they pulled, and you know what they pulled last night?
Yeah, that Bush League, you up 49 points and you fake a punt in the 4th quarter. Yo, you ain't going. It's going to come back. It's going to come back to get you.
On you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you see what happened to the punter? They almost separated his ass from the ball.
Yep. Oh, I would have too.
Yeah, me
too. And Mike, I'm glad you brought that up. Fans, if you don't know, the Ohio State University was, let's just say, up comfortably
49
against Rutgers.
49.
And I believe the punter muffed the punt or something, and instead of kicking it, he ran for a first down, got clocked a little bit, a couple of steps out of bounds, and the coaches ended up having words. And I'm not a fan of it. Will happened to be on the show this morning. He knows of my disdain. If I'm comfortably up, much to the disdain of my players, we're going to shut this thing down unless the other team tries something ridiculous.
Yes.
And then all bets are off. But I'm
Coach,
not a fan
I knelt
of that.
on the goal line twice. We were up 52-0 on the team, and twice. It was 40-0 at halftime. We were on the goal line with 45 seconds left. We kneeled on the ball. Right?
Yes.
Then to end the 3rd quarter, we're on the goal line again. We kneeled the ball. Like, I'm not doing that. There's kids on that other sideline. And I'm not saying college is the same. I understand it's a business. But at some point, man, you got to like respect the game itself, because the football gods will come back and get you.
Yes.
And on top of that, it's also like you're supposed to be protecting the players, you know, and you're up 39 points. Why are you putting your punter in a situation like that? Why are you putting your team running this crazy play when somebody could have gotten the ACL? The punter could have gotten knocked out. You know that. You know, and
he didn't get knocked out.
But why would you even show your cards? Like, if that's a play that you're going to use
later in the
November,
season. Yes.
Why you show me in October 1?
Yeah, man, that's cold-blooded, man.
It's Bush League. It's Bush League. You know, Ohio State is better than that. You know, punt the ball.
Are they?
Hey, Eddie, we're talking about you. I want to hear from you.
Are they better than that? Let's be honest.
It's gonna come back and get him. You know, God don't like ugly, man. And
you know, I don't believe in him anyway. He'll tell you, I don't believe Ohio State and Michigan until until they actually holding the trophy up. Then I'll say, all right, it was right.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, the media pushes them every year, one of the two or both, and it's just, other than maybe 1 year, they both reached what they were supposed to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we hear that all the time. But
then they have that fluke year where they went 10-0. They couldn't go to a bowl game, and everybody was like, "Oh, they were the champions. They were good, and they win." So,
all right. Well, picks of the week. Last week I was 2-3. This week, 2-3. Kind of mad about that.
Who'd you pick?
So we're gonna go there. And overall on the season, I'm 11-14. So spread. Mike, I had Oklahoma -6.5, sir. Oklahoma was coming off a loss.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing TCU.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to come off that loss, frothy at the mouth, and let's go get them. Or as Lawrence Taylor would say, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs.
I got
They went out there like a bunch of poodles. Terrible. The second game, over under, Michigan, Iowa, over 42. Here's where I got in trouble because I believe Michigan wanted to impress, and Iowa is the slowest good team in history of college football. We've said that all year, and Michigan didn't hang 42 on them by themselves. So I did win the 2 play of the week. I picked Air Force and Utah. My 3 play of the week was UNC, Penn State, and Alabama. So they took care of business. And my money line pick
should have been Michigan.
Was going well. Stop it. Until I turned the game on. So Auburn was supposed to upset LSU. They were up 17, whatever. I turned on TV, and then they turned the ball over, and LSU continues to win that. So look for our picks, fans, on Saturday mornings on our Twitter page, and hopefully we'll do better. And as I close out, I have my season-long win totals for feel free to react as I say them or bypass as we did. Alabama over 11.5. They're still cooking. Georgia over 11. Houston, I'm not going to win that one, so I'm sorry. Okay. I looked at, whatever.
Yeah.
Kansas has already won for me because they're over 2.5. So they're at 5 wins and rolling. NC State over 8.5. They're going to help me. I feel comfortable about that. Nebraska under 7.5. I feel comfortable about that. They're not winning 8 games. Notre Dame over 8.5. I don't know, Mike, if they can get on that run or not. That's going to be very, very challenging.
They'll get it. They'll get it.
Penn State over 8.5. Now, this is going to suck me in because this happens to me every year, Mike and Will. I looked at the end of Penn State's schedule, and there's some hitters on there at the end of the year.
Yes, sir.
So we got to keep winning. We got to hurry up. Keep going.
They struggled yesterday.
Yeah, they were a big favorite yesterday, and they barely got through with what I think they won on 10, like 17-7 or something.
17-7, man. It was
yeah,
bad.
they were big.
They didn't cover.
It was minus 3,500.
They didn't cover. They didn't cover at all. It was a minus 25.5, and they shit the bed.
Strictly for entertainment purposes only, fan. All right, Texas under 8.5. I think I got a shot at that one. Texas A&M under 8.5. I think I got a shot at that one, but I wish Arkansas had got that win. Mike, South Carolina over 6.5, and South Carolina's at 3 wins. Are there 4 winnable games left on their schedule?
You hang that one up.
Yeah, that one's done.
You can ball that ticket out.
Ticket out.
That is going in the trash.
Utah over 9.
You put that in the G file.
There you go, bro. You
About that.
put it in the trash can.
You hit the Kobe.
Utah over 9. Clemson over 10.5, and Ohio State
that
over
might
11.
be in question right now.
Yeah, man.
Clemson over 10.5.
It's gonna be tough.
So our week 6 games to watch: Arkansas versus Mississippi State.
Let me get my pen.
Yes.
I'm trying to
midweek bets going on and midweek.
I'm trying to dive
messages.
into this world and join y'all. I'm trying to learn from y'all. I gotta learn.
Well, I haven't done well, and there's always one getting in the way.
Go ahead.
So week 6 games to watch: Arkansas versus Mississippi State, going to Stark Vegas. Coming off of 2 losses now.
Money line.
I lean to the money line more than anything because I'm trying to win money. I'm not trying to lose money.
Exactly.
TCU versus Kansas, the undefeated Horned Frogs versus the undefeated Jayhawks, playing for the richest Brown. I'm still shocked that they're undefeated, but
what's the under?
Nothing yet because we're Sunday, man. I'm sure I'll hit you tomorrow.
I do like the over under on that game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 2 undefeated teams. I think the best bet would be the over under.
Purdue versus Maryland. Purdue's coming to town for Maryland. Let's keep this going, Maryland. Texas Tech versus Oklahoma State. Can Texas Tech upset the apple cart? Or does the Big 12 still have an outside shot for the playoffs? Because again, Oklahoma State is the team, and TCU's undefeated too. I don't know how long Kansas is going to keep this up. Utah's going against UCLA. UCLA is undefeated. Utah's got one loss. The independent battle royal, BYU versus Notre Dame, and I believe they're playing in Vegas. I think they're playing in Vegas. And Texas,
who playing in the city of sin? Two religious
I think they're playing
is a funny
the
person.
the Catholic school and the Mormons are playing in Sin City.
I think they're playing at Allegiant Stadium.
Somebody
I don't have
set that up.
0.5 with me, but I think they're playing at the Raiders Stadium.
Allegiant.
Don't quote me, but I think that's where they're playing. And Texas
Somebody
A&M.
bet by getting that. He was like, "Man, watch. I bet you in Vegas." They were like, "No, you won't. Watch. I bet they're gonna play in Vegas." And then when I told you, now somebody had to give somebody $500 because he told they're gonna end up in Vegas.
And finally,
so
Texas A&M against Alabama. That game was supposed to mean something. So now, is this the game Texas A&M circled on their schedule? And is this when they play like they're supposed to play with all this talent that they tell me that they're having? I might start calling Texas A&M the Denver Broncos because they always seem to be one player away. I understand why they have all this talent and never win.
Who?
Texas A&M.
Oh, come on, man. That's your boy down there. And yes, that game is in Vegas.
Okay. Hey, score one
October
for the
8th.
host.
That game is in Vegas. Ain't that a
Right.
Can you imagine that? The Catholics and the Mormons, of course.
Yeah, in Sin City. That's a man. They should show that. Has to be on TV.
That has.
Yes, it will be on Peacock.
You said Fox News. That's when it's gonna be on.
He said Fox News. That would be the only thing that make it better if it was on Fox.
Right.
Will, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you sitting in, even though you thought it was the NFL show. I'm just joking.
All good. I watched all. You already know.
And Mike, anything you want to add before we close out, sir? Because it's good to see you again.
No, sir. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be back and just trying to take notes so I can get my strictly entertainment purposes career on right now. That's it.
Yes, and the wife's still not mad that I'm down about $20. She's like, whatever, man. So,
hey, Mike, real quick before I ran into your boy O'Dear.
Did you?
Yeah, at the game.
I was going to wait till we get off. I'm going to talk to you about that for a second.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. So, on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, and Captain for Life, he thought I was joking in 2004, but now he knows I'm real. Will Cotton. I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast. You can see me because my wife bought me lights, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.